Hi, I'm Darren Matschull, Procurement Director of Yentzen Limited in the UK. Thank you for inviting me to the Global Cherry Summit 2021 Cherry Webinar. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about who Yentzen are, UK and Europe cherry statistics, opportunities for Chile that might be there in the UK and Europe, the challenges that could arise both at source and destination, a bit about diversification, maybe moving some of that percentage away from China, what we require technically, and a brief summary. A bit about Sims. So we were founded in 1896. We're fourth generation family owned business, and we've been importers of cherries for the past 36 years. We own farms or joint ventures in Chile, Chico, South Africa, Washington, Canada, Spain, and the UK. It puts us in quite a good position globally to know a little bit about the cherry market. We supply UK retailers with cherries for approximately 48 weeks of the year. We're not quite there yet with 52. We are the largest importer of cherries in Europe, and we say that the holy grail is to have strong supply for 52 weeks. We believe it can be done. A few statistics around what Sims have done. So in the last 12 months, we've imported 7,000 tonnes of cherries. 2,500 tonnes of those were from the Southern Hemisphere. It represents a 40% year-on-year increase. Not dissimilar to what Chile did yourself last year. I think it was around a 54% increase. Southern Hemisphere is becoming more important to our business every year and represents the majority of growth and opportunity. Sims imported more than half of the Chilean cherries that were exported to Europe. A little bit about UK and European cherry statistics. Well, 890,000 boxes, around 4,500 tonnes, were exported from Chile to Europe last season. 70% of those were direct to the UK and 30% went into Europe. However, many of those were shipped to Rotterdam to save some days in transit and were shipped back to the UK. Overall, it only represents 1% of the Chilean cherry industry coming to Europe. What opportunities do we have in the UK? Well, first, let me give you a little bit of background. The population here is 68 million. The average daily temperature during the season is between 0 and 7 degrees. It's cold. 95% of cherry sales are to planned retail customers. We have no spot market, we have virtually no wholesale business. It's an extremely price-sensitive market, but it is a very stable market. As I said, sales are planned with retailers months in advance. We're starting to talk to them now about their tenders and their wishes for the winter, and that will continue to the end of September. Shelf space and promotions are all pre-booked between now and the end of September, and prices are often agreed with little opportunity to adjust on a weekly basis, unless of course the price goes down and then the retailers gladly accept. If the price goes up, they don't want to know. The prices were preset 3 months ago. It's too late. We say here, don't supply for the spot market, for the wholesalers. It won't work. You'll be disappointed with your results. No program, no business. What opportunities do we have though to sell more? Well, promotions really work well in the UK. 45% of cherries are sold on promotion, yet we only promote 20% of the time. The more promotions we can do, the more promotions we can plan in advance, the more Chilean cherries we can sell. I also believe we need to start targeting the online shoppers, something we haven't done until now. 20% of UK food and fruit is now purchased online. However, only 9% of cherries are sold online. It's very unlikely cherries are on the shopping list, and we find that they're more of an impulse buy. So what can we do to target the online shoppers so they see Chilean cherries? Well, we can advertise and have banners. The banners will come across the screen when they're shopping fruit and produce. However, investment is needed and it's not cheap. I also believe we should be looking at bigger packs and better value. Sales of 750 gram and 1 kilo pullets are huge during the UK summer, however they're non-existent in the Southern Hemisphere season. Statistically, however, families were the highest percentage of cherry shoppers during 2020, suggesting bigger packs could be a great opportunity. Another idea is worth considering: only 12% of Southern Hemisphere cherry sales happen pre-Christmas. The remaining 88% of sales are post-Christmas. The cherries are harvested and they're available. Yep, they're absolutely very expensive to air freight them, so maybe we could look at other ideas to get them here for the December trade. Years ago we started looking at sea air combos. It might be time to revisit that again. Moving on to Europe, the population of Europe is 746 million. However, the UK sells 3 times more cherries from the Southern Hemisphere than the rest of Europe added together, despite being just 10% of the population. Southern Europe consider Southern Hemisphere cherries to be out of season, yet a retailer like Mercadona can sell 1,000 tons of cherries in a week when Spanish cherries are in season. Now just imagine if we can convince them to sell 10% of that in the winter, you're looking at 100 tons. With regards to Northern Europe, it's already starting to develop and represents a big opportunity. However, there's a lot of nervousness around trying to sell cherries during the winter at high cost compared to the summer. We need to target the sea freight season where cherries are at their cheapest. Europe is a very underdeveloped market. It's similar to where we were here in the UK 10 or 15 years ago. It will develop, but we need to help them to get there. We must convince them to sell cherries in their winter. I believe it's just a mindset and it can be changed. So what are some of the challenges that I see for chili? Well, last year we know the Chilean cherry crop went from 46 million boxes to 70 million boxes. We probably need to ask, did the cherries get picked at the optimum time? Did the cherries get packed fast enough? Did the cherries get shipped fast enough? Quality of arrivals in the UK would suggest certainly towards the latter varieties, we saw brown internal and really poor flavour. It's very prevalent. It may be a result of some of the things I've just mentioned. We believe chili's probably gearing for another 70 million box crop. In the future, 100 million, I'm sure it will happen. We need to do everything now to be ready for it. I'm not going to talk too much about COVID. However, it's worth mentioning that depending on what phase you are with COVID during the season, it's highly likely last year's challenges will repeat. Other challenges, well, some things we can't do anything about. Lack of water, I'm hearing a lot about it, the droughts in Chile. If it gets worse, then it's certainly going to impact the cherry crop. Another thing we should probably consider, you now have cherry vessels going to China. The UK and Europe now represent the longest journey with an average of more than 30 days transit. Vessels are taking longer than ever to reach Europe. It's absolutely imperative that you're choosing the strongest cherries to be selected for the containers to Europe. Cherry costs are increasing, we know that. Packaging, pallets, labour. However, if we want to sell more cherries in the UK and Europe, we need to promote and we need costs to go down. Can you pack more efficiently? 1 or 2 varieties per container probably makes little difference for you, but it makes a big difference in our efficiency when we're packing them here in the UK. Last year, we received over 30 varieties. Sometimes we receive 2 or 3 different varieties on a pallet. Those pallets need stripping down. Some of these varieties are old. We might only have 10 or 15 boxes on the pallet. Maybe it's time to think about cutting them down or grafting and replanting some of the more modern new varieties. Other challenges for the UK and Europe, logistics. Please make sure phytosanitary certificates have the correct information for both the UK and Europe. They have slightly different wording requirements. If you need help with this, please ask, we can help. Also, shipping delays. Nearly every vessel last season encountered delays. Many vessels cut out the UK altogether, resulting in some containers being stuck in Rotterdam for 14 days. It's worth considering consigning to Rotterdam on the bill of lading, and we collect from there. It does represent some security, but it does come at an extra cost. To bring those containers back from Rotterdam, it's about €3,500. It's also worth mentioning that the average cost of 1 kilo of generic fruit during the Southern Hemisphere season has a retail of £2.22. However, the average cost of Southern Hemisphere cherries for 1 kilo at the same time is £6.91, more than 3 times more. The public's perception of cherries is that they're a luxury and they're expensive. However, we need to change that mindset. They retail very similar to blueberries, yet blueberries are considered mainstream. I think we can do more work to get cherries to the same level. I said I'm not going to talk too much about COVID, and I'm not. So the obvious challenges are resulting around shortages of people, for packing, for sorting, for haulage. Brexit is almost a double whammy. It's having the same implications. We have a real shortage of people over here in the UK at the moment. Also, for the first time ever, the majority of customer complaints were due to flavour and brown internal breakdown. I think this could suggest that the cherries were very old, and as I said earlier, were they picked on time? Were they packed on time? We certainly saw it with some of the Lapins and Regina towards the end of the season. We have a real challenge convincing European retailers to try selling cherries in the winter. Forget air freight, early season air freight at $60 a box. It's not going to convince them. I think we need to be targeting the cheaper sea freight post-Christmas. And for your information, the majority of air freight sales in the UK are sold at a loss. J.O. Sims foots that bill in order to stimulate the market ready for the sea shipments. It's something we've done for many years. It's expensive, but we do find the benefit in doing it. And please, whatever you do, don't compare the UK and Europe with China. It's not the same. Both the UK and Europe are very, very cost sensitive. A little bit about diversification. Well, we know now for several years around 90% of your crop has gone to China. It's a very dangerous position for Chile, and I think now you're probably looking, and it's time to start spreading your risk and look at some of those older markets you had before, maybe the United States, Europe, and also new markets. But please, if you're coming to these new markets, be very clear what accreditation is needed to enter that market. Please make sure you know your market and what's required. Also, understand your options for getting to market, what haulage and sea freight and air freight options you have. What is the quickest and most cost-effective route to Europe? As I've already said, we suffered tremendous delays last year, mainly due to vessels terminating in Rotterdam. The bills of lading were consigned to the UK, and we were waiting for feeder vessels to bring those cherries back from Rotterdam to the UK. At times it took up to 2 weeks for that to happen. Of course, it's not good for the cherries. A little bit about what we require technically. So for growers, please make sure every grower has Global GAP certification, and it includes GBR as country of destination. Now we're out of the European Union, that's changed. Make sure every grower's got GRASP certification, and make sure SEDEX registration for each grower and SAQ is completed annually. From a pesticide point of view, be clear what is expected and required for the UK and Europe. Be aware what the maximum number of active ingredients are, what the maximum concentrations and harvest intervals are. Phosphatil testing. Be aware that it happens over here and we can't find phosphatil. Be aware of the UK and European chemical lists. It's very, very important. With regards to pack houses, so GFSI food safety accreditation is required for each pack house. SMETA audit on a 2-year frequency. global location numbers to be available for each pack house, SEDEX registration and SAQ completed and reviewed annually. Now, if you have any questions with regards to the technical side of things after this presentation, please don't ask me. I'm not the person for it. However, my technical colleague, Emily Warrener, is available. Her email's on here, and I can help you with that. Give you her email address. Finally, a short summary. The UK is a mature market that still represents an opportunity to sell more. From a technical point of view, it's possibly the most difficult market in the world. However, Europe is completely an underdeveloped market, and we need to change their mindset. I think we can do it. And finally, cherries are your passion. Cherries are my passion. Let's get to work and make it happen. Thank you very much.